Yo, hello, it's Unicorn Hole. 2020 was dog shit, basically. It set the bar very low. I think 2020 tunneled down to the core of the earth and just yeeted the bar right in there into the ooey gooey molten center. And 2021 did manage to stumble over that bar. You know, it was a little bit better. But in the world of Nintendocore, 2021 was actually pretty rad. A lot of good stuff came out. And so I'm going to talk about it. But before we get into my top 10, how about 30 minutes of disclaimers? Yay! I love that! So this is my personal list. If you don't agree with it, that's fine. That just means that, you're dumb and you don't listen to music good and you should just stop. Just stop. I am going to set a few rules for what is eligible for my top 10, but anytime a rule knocks out a release that was a banger, I'll talk about it a little bit. So the first rule for my top 10 Nintendocore albums is they need to be Nintendocore. Nintendocore. Just making sure that will read right for you. Nintendo. What does that mean? For me, that means it needs synths, probably video game sounding. Maybe some glitch effects, maybe some bit crushing, maybe some breakcore, just electronic sounding stuff, digital stuff. Core. What does that mean? Breakdowns, baby! Top 10 breakdowns. My top 8 breakdowns of the week. Yeah, pretty much breakdowns. Abrasive music doesn't have to exactly have breakdowns, but, core, chugging. So the first thing that gets knocked out is Perfect Again by Bubblegum Octopus. It's more of a dreamy, breakbeat, electronic album. There's not really any metal elements to it, I'd say, but it's super duper worth a listen. At least listen to the title track, if nothing else. But the title track is like 90% of the length of the album, so just listen to the whole thing. It's BGO, what are you doing? The next albums I'm going to knock out are Our First and Second Set Ever by SISSY XO. They're very expressive, artsy, noisy albums. I wouldn't really call them Nintendocore exactly because they're a lot more like freeform, I think. But super good stuff. To me, it sounds like if Behold the Octopus and Number 12 had a baby who refused to do clean vocals. Like, there just aren't clean vocals. But it's super good. Check them out. I'm going to disqualify Crossing Over by Synth Chris. Despite the name, there's not a whole lot of synths on it, and most of the ones that are kind of atmosphere-y, choir-y stuff. There's a few video game synths, but overall, I don't think the album belongs on a top 10 Nintendocore albums. But again, it's a banger. There's a lot of sick breakdowns, super clean production, and there's like a million awesome guest vocalists. Definitely check it out. Okay, the next one is, people are going to get mad at me, and I'm looking at my notes. Cara, Neir, and Gonemage. I'm going to eliminate those because they're not core. They're definitely Nintendo, though. They are like black metal, punky, and I'm lumping them together, but they do sound distinct. But they're concept albums, and they go together. The stories kind of mush together, I think, sort of like the NCU. They are good albums, but I don't know shit about black metal, and when I listen to them, I feel kind of a distance. And so that doesn't mean that I'm writing them off. It means the opposite. It means that I need to listen to them a lot more and fully digest them. So I'm going to disqualify them as kind of bitching out. But if you like black metal and abrasive music and don't need breakdowns and you like chippy stuff, you got to check them out. They're awesome. Rule number 2. At least 5 minutes of new music. Basically, I'm only looking at music that came out in 2021, and I don't want to compare singles and tiny little EPs to full lengths or more fleshed out EPs. It just feels like you can make an argument for it, but it's my list, so leave a dislike, lol. First thing I'm going to knock out because of this rule is For Derek by I Shot the Duck Hunt Dog. It's classic MySpace Nintendocore, but obviously it ain't new. For being a little too short for my list, I'm going to knock out DEATHTRIPPA and the Infinite Tired. To me, it sounds like old rappy Slipknot, like Spit It Out era stuff, like their first couple albums. Super good, super cool stuff, raw, I dig it. Just, not for this list. And then there's Pokemaniac by Got Item. It's, textbook, classic, banger Nintendocore. It's good shit. But all in all, it's about 3 minutes long. So it's kind of like it's like a single sandwich because there's an intro and an outro sort of. The way it flows is really cool. And you gotta check it out, but not on my list. Rule 3, no comps, no splits. I might love some of the tracks on a comp and then not be feeling others, and it's hard to talk about the comp without getting into each track. And as for split, it's kind of the same way. I might be digging one band a lot more than the other, and so that makes it kind of hard to place. And so, for simplicity's sake, releases by a single band only. So this knocks out the Big Money Cybergrind compilation Volume 1, as well as the Grindoff compilation, and the Melee comp by Nintendocore Lives. But if you haven't heard these, what are you doing? What the fuck are you doing? If you're watching this video because you're like, what's Nintendocore? Okay, then I forgive you, but start there. Listen to the Big Money Cybergrind comp and the Nintendocore Lives comp, obviously. And if you already know the music and you're into it and you haven't listened to them, then what are you doing? I'm going to eliminate At War With My Own Body by Thotcrime and Headgore. Headgore is very noisy, very heavy, very cybergrindy. Thotcrime has a unique take on cybergrind that features a lot of clean vocals and a lot of catchy stuff, but they can also like go ham when they need to. I would say Thotcrime is more aligned with my musical tastes. Check out the whole thing. I mean, don't be a ding-dong. Next, I'm going to drop off the Ninstrumental split by Anti-PizzaBoy and Pixelbitching. This album is pretty much what it says on the tin. It's instrumental Nintendocore. Those two guys have great chemistry together. Their songs, they take turns doing one song after the other, and the whole album flows really well for it. And yeah, it's solid. It's good stuff. Check it out. Didn't ask me to do vocals. Finally, I'm going to boot Hiraeth by Raccoon City Massacre because they put out 2 EPs this year, and I don't want 2 by the same band, and I like their other EP a little bit better. Final disclaimer. I'm friends with a lot of the guys on this list. I've worked with a lot of the guys on this list. I guest on several of the albums that appear on this list. If I disqualified every band that I've worked with, there would hardly be anything for me to count down. Here, I'll list the bands that I worked with in 2021 alone and released a finished piece of collaborative music, right? Just last year. We got All Hail the Mustache twice, Anti-PizzaBoy twice, Codex Orzova, Kojam, Error 37, Ghost House TX, Kyle N, The Halloween, Meet Me in Lavender Town twice, Murdering Mad Jack, Pixelbitching, Polygon Horizon, Put Your Name Here, Raccoon City Massacre twice, Star Cutter, Swim Loves You, ThyHarvesting, and Weekly Words and Grammar. Oh, and Wreck the System. If you look closely at the order of my top 10, and you know who I'm friends with, and you know which albums I'm on, I think you'll see that I went with my gut, and I went with how much I actually like the albums, and not who's my buddy. So finally, let's do it! At number 10, would it be cool if I did a little clue, a little hint for each one, and you try to guess it? The title of this one makes me think of some biblically accurate angel shit. It is Crown of Eyes That Gaze Upon Bleeding Stars by ThyHarvesting. It's a pretty short release. It just squeaked past my minimum length requirement. But basically it takes ThyHarvesting's normal trance-core electronic reverby sound and takes it in a little darker direction, and I think it's some of his heaviest stuff yet. I really dig it. Number 9 is by a project that hasn't released anything in a while, and it deals with a movie series that hasn't released anything in a while. But they both did again last year. It's Matrix Redux by A Challenger Approaches. The album features a lot of tight, fast riffing and dark, moody synths. It's pretty fast and relentless overall. There are breakdowns. There's definitely like chugging stuff, but there's not like big open breakdowns, you know? It's not that kind. It's a more constant barrage. There are moments that remind me of like old school The Faceless, and that's my shit. And speaking of The Faceless, the next band on the list reminds me very much of those late 2000s Sumerian deathcore, metalcore bands like Veil of Maya and Born of Osiris. That's your hint. Yeah, it's just about the music. It is the Resident Evil EP by Raccoon City Massacre. Kind of feels inevitable that that band put out an album about that game series, huh? It's got heavy-ass breakdowns, it's technical sometimes, it's melodic sometimes, and the Star Cutter feature on it is really rad. And there's a nice vocal variety as well, and some of the vocals are fucking raw. Put your hands together if you wanna clap! Number 7 is Save the Island by Murdering Mad Jack, and it almost rhymed. Pretty cool! Monkeycore. This album is the Nintendocore album that is the most dedicated to its inspiration that I've ever heard. Like probably all of the synths are from the sound font of Donkey Kong 64, and there are tons and tons of sound effects from the game mixed in, and even just the writing sounds like it. I don't know if there are like partial covers mixed in or if they really just channeled the writing for the game, but it's pretty uncanny. There's like a DJ wiki I don't know DJ stuff. There's a track like that. It's cool. It's a cool bridge in the middle of the album to break up the metal stuff, which is extremely well produced, and it goes hard, and it's a good album. If number 6 wanted to be higher up on the list, then when it finds out it's number 6, it'll say, damn, not here. Number 6 is Zassy by... How am I supposed to say that, by the way? Nabi:3? I mean, that sounds pretty good, I guess. Listen, guy, if you're watching this, I can't tell my Google in the car. I can't be like, yo, Google, play Nabi:3. It doesn't know what the fuck I'm saying. You might want to think about that kind of stuff, you know? The damn, not here is when Shadow the Hedgehog dies in his game. And I think that sample is in every song on this album. It just happens over and over again, which I think is fucking hilarious. This album is super unique. It's weird. It's a mix of hyperpop and Nintendocore and breakcore and some emo vibes. There are definitely moments that bring I Set My Friends on Fire to mind. It can be very catchy when it wants to. It's a good album. It's weird. It's real weird, but it's good. I think out of everything on this list, he could blow the fuck up because of the hyperpop mixed in and the... I don't know. I feel like he's got something. I feel like you got something. You watching this? Change your name. Don't really. Do what you love. Don't take advice about your band name from the dude whose band name is Butthole, okay? Top 5! Top 5! Woo! We're getting into the ones I like the most, because that's how a top 10 works. But speaking of, numbers 5, 4, 3, and 2, honestly, they could go in any order. I changed them around so much. I tried my best to put them in order. I'm still not 100% on it, but we're going with it. It's record time, so... here we are. Okay, I talked about the last album, wondering if it's where it belongs on the list. And I will say the place for this album is at the 5th place. There is a place for it at the 5th place. The 5th album is There's No Place for Me Here by Put Your Name Here. It's very abrasive, it's very cybergrindy, probably the most out of anything on the list. I don't know if that checks out, but probably. But it can also be super catchy. and melodic, and then when it wants to be, and then weird, it'll go into these weird little synthy parts that are like dancey or sound like straight out of a video game. The album is super dynamic, and that's why I ranked it so high, because even though it's short, you know, when you listen to it, like some Cybergrind for me, if it's just max blasting and screeching the whole time, if you've been driving 100 miles per hour for an hour, that doesn't feel fast anymore. You know what I'm saying? This album is like, it knows exactly when to veer into something else, to something catchy, or to a breakdown, or to some weird part to like pull you away, so that when it goes back into the, you know, grinding stuff, it hits harder all over again. If there's a bias on this list of just like personal taste bumping something up, it's probably this album. I just super click with it. Also, I was Put Your Name Here's 10th like on Facebook. We gotta fix that. Go like this band. Go tell them that they're good. We'll listen to the stuff and hear that it's good, and then go tell them. Don't be disingenuous, but you don't have to be. It's good. Number 4, I am really excited to talk about, but not overly excited, because it's not underwhelming. Hint. That's a hint. Number 4 is Overly Excited for Underwhelming Situations by Chidori. I've never watched Naruto. Is that how you say that? Chidori? I can't imagine that it's some other way. This band is MySpace AF, but I mean that in the best way possible. If you were around on MySpace when the guys from I Set My Friends on Fire, the two of them, were posting their videos with their little penguin and posting music and stuff, like, this will take you right back there. And it's not too derivative. I will say, like, if I was Matt, I would be calling them up and being like, hey, can I just come do you guys, and we'll just call it I Set My Friends on Fire? And if I was Chidori, I'd be like, let me think about it. Also, these dudes have a music video, and they rolled out merch. I think they're a brand new band as of 2021, so big props. I'm going to give them the seal of goodest new band that did brand-ass new. Alright, hint for the next one. The most famous song by Monomate, I'm pretty sure, but if it had a creative title instead of just a lame one. It's Rainbow Roadkill by All Hail the Mustache. Hey, this is the second entry on this top 10 list from Florida. This is just a solid-ass metalcore album with some singing, authentic LSDJ synths. There's guitar solos, there's rad breakdowns. What makes the band unique, in my opinion, is Phil, because he sounds like Rhodey Walker to me from Protest the Hero. I feel like it's a normie thing to be like, X sounds like Y, when it kind of doesn't. Like, I've had people tell me Unicorn Hole sounds like, oh yeah, that's that heavy shit like Kid Rock or something like that. Ugh. So he doesn't sound much like Rhodey, really, but if you've never heard him before and you know who Rhodey is, it'll give you the right idea. But the dynamic between his vocals and Gambino, I'm pretty sure, Ziz growled vocals back and forth and sometimes at the same time and stuff, they got a good thing going. And they're a live performing band too, which is pretty rad. Several on this list are, but I just thought of it first for them because they're in Florida, which means it's not too far of a drive for me to go check them out. It's no trouble at all to talk about number 2 on my list. Not inconvenient at all. A second hint. Number 2 is An Inconvenience at Best by Meet Me in Lavender Town. I'm going to say, off the bat, the production leaves a little bit to be desired for this one, but let that be a testament to how freaking heckin' damn good the composition is that I still decided to put it at number 2. It's so catchy. The writing is so good. It's got lovely, authentic LSDJ synths like the previous entry, and lots of breakdowns, lots of catchy guitar stuff, but the hooks, man, the vocal hooks are so catchy. I've also I don't think I've ever heard Easycore Nintendocore. When I was ordering this list, basically what I did was I thought about which albums did I just listen to the most, which ones did I keep going back to, and also which ones do I think I will continue to go back to the most. That's it. And I listened to this thing a lot. Before I reveal my number one personal favorite Nintendocore album of 2021, I'm going to do 2 honorable mentions that just didn't quite catch my top 10. Keep in mind that every single album I mentioned in this video, including the ones I disqualified at the beginning, I wanted to talk about. That's why I made this video. There's Super Sega Core 20XX by Anti-PizzaBoy. It's Sega Core. I think he used a Sega sound font, Genesis or something. Might be talking out of my ass. But anyway, yeah, it's noisy. It's probably more Cybergrind than Nintendocore. The vocals are very harsh. It's something I think I would enjoy live a lot better than listening to a recording of. I also want to shout out Life is Pain by Blind Equation, or Bling Equation, as I like to call him. I would say this album is definitely more in the Cybergrind arena than in Nintendocore. It's got a lot of like chromatic 16th or maybe 8th note arpeggios that go up and back down really quickly. So it's a very, yeah, like that. So it's a very frantic album. It's very fast-paced and in-your-face. It doesn't sound to me quite like anything else that I've mentioned. It's kind of got its own little niche, and I think that's why it got the damn Fantano bump. Big props on that. Also, James has been killing it, putting out lots of videos and grinding and hustling. I see you. Okay, so my number one album. I'm not going to give a hint. If you've been paying attention, you already know what it is. The hint is, if you don't already know, go back to the beginning of 2021 and do better. I just realized I didn't put a Game Boy up there, and my shit's been uneven this whole time. I'm sorry if you have an obsessive mind and you've been stuck on that. I apologize. Here. Bow! Perfect! Number one is Terminal by Temenegru. Shit, dude. Shit. Remember how I said There Is No Place for Me Here by Put Your Name Here is like the most aligned with my personal tastes? Like, it's just, yeah, this is it. This is my shit. Okay, this album to me is pretty similar, actually. If you like one, you'll probably like the other. But Terminal's just, I think, a little more polished and just so unique and so like all over the place, but in a good way. Same as that album. It's very like you never know what's gonna happen next. The breakdowns are just fucking sick. There was some As Blood Runs Black inspiration and like from their album Allegiance, and I love that album, and you can kind of feel it in this album. There's black metal influence, there's breakcore, there's a lot of chiptune stuff, there's video game sound effects thrown in there, there's glitchy stuff, there's super crazy grindy parts, but never any of that for too long. It's a concept album with some pretty dark themes, but it gives it layers, you know. There's more to dive into. You listen to it, you groove, but then you read those lyrics and you're like, hold up now, start that shit over. What does this say? What is he? Woo! Yeah, dude, it's as simple as the album that whenever I pull up my Bandcamp list, I bought like 40 albums last year or something. Whenever I pull up the list and look at it, the one that I'm like, ooh, that one, and click it the most, it's Terminal. So, had to be number one. I love it. It's awesome. Check it out. Check out every one that I've listed. They're all super amazing. But there is one that is even better. Number super one, number rank S1 is HD Remakes Round 3. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just fucking with you. Wouldn't it be crazy? I thought about pretending like number one was one of my albums. I put out 2 EPs this year. It's HD Remakes Round 3, which has 12 guests that are all Nintendocore, Cybergrind, Nerdcore, electronic, whatever. So it's a good way to, you know, hear a lot of the current artists. I put out DLC 3 with Weekly Words and Grammar. There's a song on there about beans that has like 1,000 guests, so check that out. If you didn't, that came out on the within like 4 years of 2021 ending, but it counts. Make sure to ring that fucking bell, dude, and karate chop the like button. No, I actually genuinely want to know. Like, let me know which albums I fucking underrated, which ones I overrated, which ones I forgot. I definitely want to hear that. I'm sure there's some really good shit that I missed. Maybe I didn't bop the same shit you bopped, but we're all bopping shit. So just keep bopping shit, dude. Oh, and DJ Khaled was eligible to be on the list. I made an exception for him, but he didn't make it. Fucking idiot.